Hey, Beverly. There's no sound for you.
How about now?
Now I can hear you.
Every time I log in, it says Zoom's detected a problem with your microphone. Please verify your password.
Oh.
It keeps me on my toes. At least I can remember my password.
There you go, right? How many of us don't actually?
Oh my God, passwords
for these days, and they all have different requirements. And how many times I have to do a password reset because I don't know what password I use?
Yep.
I added an extra letter or special character. Oh, it's fun times. So we do have people still popping in here. But as to my email, I thought it would be a good opportunity today. We have been seeing more and more requests as to scripts. We, of course, direct everyone to the live dials to watch. And really, it's a lot easier to mimic somebody, in my opinion, than it is to actually read off a scripted piece of paper.
Agreed.
Sound like a robot, really.
Yep.
So, yeah, I thought that this would be a great opportunity for us to be able to go through some common objections that these agents are likely encountering or going to encounter, needless to say. So, yeah, I'm sure that's something that you come across a lot, or no, Beverly?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit?
Really what kicked my business career off was the great question asker is, how do you engage people so easily and so quickly? And it obviously did not come easy out of the gate because I suffered from what we all suffer for, and that's that fear of the phone. That phone was like 100 pounds when I first started dialing, and it was not my friend. I had the sweaty palms. I had every reason in the world to not call this lead. I'm reading through the notes. I'm like, well, they're looking at a $30,000 property. They're not going to be worth my time, so I'm not going to call them. Woo, move on to the next.
Yeah.
I would spend more time talking myself out of what I needed to do and not doing it than actually doing it and wondering why I wasn't getting the results I wanted. But
we do that in life, though. With so many different things, right? We give ourselves excuses and procrastinate and find other things that we could be doing just to avoid what we don't want.
But we're always looking for that high. We're always looking for that next high, especially in sales. We thrive on the thrill of the chase. And we love those pings on our phone because we think it might be another customer. So when we're doing something that makes us uncomfortable, or we're doing something that gives us a feeling we don't like, we're automatically looking for that thing that's going to make us feel the way we want to feel. So it's easier to check your Facebook. It's easier to check your email. It's easier to call your lender, to call a client, than it is to feel those feelings that we don't want to feel. Because inevitably, that everyone's looking for scripts because they think that's going to solve their problem of picking up the phone, but it doesn't. What solves the problem of picking up the phone is feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Because the only way we're going to overcome that fear is to continue to do it until there is no fear. And so the reality is that there's no perfect script because there's no perfect client. If there were perfect clients, our job would be easy. And if there was a perfect situation, our job would be easy. But people don't move because their life is perfect. People move because there's a problem. they need something different. So when we really focus on finding out the reason why they are looking, or why they might be interested, or what brought them to look in the first place, you're so much further ahead than the person that's scripted. Because the person that's scripted is going right to the appointment. But a lot of times these people, they have such access to everything online that they don't want the appointment. They want someone that's going to nurture and care and be a resource without being salesy. And that's really the number one thing that we're sold to constantly. Even when we're not sold to, we're sold to. You flip on the radio, you flip on satellite, you flip on TV, everywhere you walk in the world, you're being sold to. So if we're being that to the people that we're calling, yes, we're going to get very different results. So I'm going to encourage this to be a very interactive hour so that we can really dig into what questions do we ask? What objections are you experiencing, and what questions can come from those objections? Or are there things that you may be saying that we can be proactive to make it a question before we even create the objection? And those of you that have been following me for a while know the objection that I was easily creating in my business was, I was with Keller Williams. My team name was Wine Trail Homes. My website was Your Northern VA Home Searcher. All three of those combined were a freaking mouthful. Well, what do I say? Well, you know, the board says I have to say I'm a real estate agent. The board says I have to disclose my name. Well, pooey on the board, in my opinion, because it wasn't working very well for me to have a conversation. So I was realizing, hey, this is Beverly with Keller Williams at Wine Trail Homes, and you were looking at homes on Your Northern VA Home Search. Click. It took 5 minutes to come out of my mouth. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but the more time you give the person on the other end of the phone to hang up, the more hangups you're going to experience. So, hey, this is Beverly. I saw that you were looking at homes. Yes, we will get to the point of the disclosure that I have to disclose. But as of right now, you gave me your information. You gave me the right to call you. So we don't have to go down that road, because when we do, we're just putting up that defensive wall on the other end of the phone. So if we keep things simple, of if we know where our lead came from, that is the most important step, because Agent Locator gives you the ability to capture and generate leads from multiple different sources. So Crystal, just name off a few of the sources that you guys offer.
We do Google, Facebook. Those are two primary as to where those leads are generated, whether it's coming direct from a Google campaign, or people looking for real estate in a certain area, or a Facebook campaign, for individuals perhaps signing up for a list of homes in a certain price.
And what about seller leads?
Seller leads, we do the same idea, either Facebook or Google.
Mm-hmm. So
Google looking for home value.
If we confront the lead with exactly what they clicked on to come into the site, you're lightning years ahead of trying to just go down the script road, because most people know what they've done. And that is going to stop that objection from, hey, I saw that you had clicked on a Facebook ad looking for homes under a certain price point, or looking for homes in a certain location, or looking at a particular home. They're like, oh yeah, I was, but I was just looking. That's what everybody says, but I was just looking. Okay, great. I'm glad you were just looking. Did you find what you were looking for? What exactly were you looking for? What are your future plans? Because even though they're just looking, something enticed them, and our job is to find out what enticed them. And the more questions you ask, the more you can engage them, and the further you can get in conversation to make some determinations of quality of the lead and urgency of the lead.
Looks like we have a question from Tom. Tom has his hand up. Tom, I'm going to allow you to talk, okay? Are you comfortable with that? Okay. You'll just have to unmute yourself.
Okay, I've unmuted myself. So I think one of my questions that I have is partly probably somewhat in my head, but it's concerning I've been following your system with the filters, and I have a made contact filter of people that were recently active. Mm-hmm. The problem I'm having is there's people that I've talked to in this filter that are a little bit further out, and I've already said, okay, I'm going to call you in 3 months or 6 months, and it's been a month, and this person hasn't been this person's been very active on the site. Should I be calling this person if I told them, like, hey, I'm going to follow up in 3 months or whatever, because they're still like a year out or 6 or 7 months out, and it's been like 2 or 3 weeks since I've talked to them?
It's one of those things depending upon, I always gauge those on how did my conversation initially go, and would it be that concierge check-in that would benefit you? Because you always definitely want to stay top of mind. And I always say that the very first objective is find out where they are in the process. Once we obtain that goal, the next objective is keeping them in your site. So if they're engaged and they're looking at properties, you're top of mind because they are responsive to your emails and are probably open the emails, and or they're coming back to your site because they've bookmarked it. So you've now conquered two of the biggest objectives to stay top of mind. So that's up to you. If it's one of those concierge check-ins, say, hey, I see that you're looking at a lot of properties. Awesome. I'm here if you have any questions. That's it. And those are the ones that you hope they don't answer the phone. You can just leave a voicemail, or you can just shoot a quick text, because you don't want to get caught on the phone with them for a long period of time if they're that far out. But it's nice. And I always say, just put yourself in the back seat for a minute. And if you were online looking at something that you had an interest in, and you had a conversation with somebody, let's just say a car. We all know that car salesmen are very salesy and are always trying to sell you that car. But if you have that one person that said, hey, I know you were looking at that a few weeks ago, and we were going to keep you updated on what we had coming in on our lot. I just wanted you to know this is what we got coming in. If you have any questions, just let me know. I'm here to answer a question at any time. No obligations. It sets that tone, it sets that ease. Does that help?
Yeah.
So if you have that list, Tom, the way I like to work that list of people that we've spoke to, that's kind of my watch list, right? You've confirmed their email address, you've had a great conversation with them, and you want to stay top of mind. When you pull up that list, you can see who's active and who's not active. The ones that are not logging in are the ones that are more of a concern, because are they Googling somewhere else? Has something changed? What's going on? Because if they said, yeah, I want to stay up to date with what's going on with the market. Yeah, I would like to receive listings weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, depending on what that answer was on the other end, is really how I follow up with them, because we can't depend on email. With the spam blockers, we just can't depend on email. So you want to make sure that you're definitely putting them above the ones that are logging in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Perfect. And so we have two questions. Well, Jerry will have a question in just a moment. Anita has asked, and a lot of us know the answer, but we will go through. There are a lot of leads looking online, but never ever pick up the phone.
Oh, those damn leads.
Oh,
Why do people do that to us? So my answer to that is yes. And there's also a lot of leads in our dashboard that have bad phone numbers. And there's also a lot of leads in our dashboard that never log in again once they register. And when people always say, Bev, what's your conversion rate? I'm like, whoa. What's my conversation rate? Yes, let's talk about conversation rate. Well, so I always like to go back and ask, how many actual phone attempts have there been for you to be able to say they never answer their phone? Because yes, there are people and there's different markets. I definitely experience people in relocation, not relocation market. Let me back up with that. On second home markets, on luxury homes that people are buying for a rental property and they're going to retire there, where they can rent out because it's a vacation destination. I have a much more difficult time getting these people to answer their phone than most people. So the way that we created our initial log or call pattern was, in order to increase my conversations, I really had to get creative with how I was dialing and when I was dialing. So it's the consistency that matters, and it's the different times of day that make the difference in the attempt of getting them to answer the phone. We cannot take them not responding to us personally. They're just not ready, and it's okay. They're using your site. You are top of mind. You may get that phone call that says, hey, I'm ready to look at a home. You've been sending me emails for the last year. It's rare, but it does happen, I promise you. So the next piece to looking at this is when we look at our history of leads that we have closed successfully, and we look back at the call patterns that we've created, we are in the first 14 days, they're getting, it used to be 10 phone call attempts within 14 days of registering. We've backed it off a little bit and have integrated more emailing and texting just because of the way technology is and the way the wonderful cell phones are. Of now, when you get a new cell phone, you can set your settings to, if you don't know the number, it don't come through. You don't even hear the ring. You just see a missed call from a number and you don't even know what's going on. So we've had to change with the times, because if people are doing that, they're never going to answer their phone because you're not in there, right? So we have to rely on text and email. But the reality is, I like to change up my times. So in those first 14 days, you should be attempting one day in the morning, one day in the early afternoon, one day in the late afternoon, one day in the early evening, later evening. If you're changing up your times, you're having a better chance of them picking up the phone. But what I like to do at the end of the day, and we've all done it, you make that phone call and they've been in your site for 7 months and they finally answer the phone and they say, I've already made the purchase. We all have them. You're like, well, why didn't you answer the phone before? I like to be able to look back at my notes and say, I did everything I could to try to get them to communicate back to me. There's nothing more I could have done, rather than physically stalk them and find out where they lived and knock on their door. Because if you have the phone attempts and you have the text messages and you have the emails and you have all those attempts, you've done absolutely everything you could, and you can't cry over spilt milk. So let's not look at the problem. Let's think about the solution. Are we dialing enough? Are we being consistent enough? And do we have enough forms of communication for them to respond back? And are we asking the right questions in those forms of communication? Because we can send out a lot of text messages and a lot of emails, but if it's not a call to action that's going to make them want to respond, yes, it's going to be very difficult to get a hold of them. And also remembering that when we may catch them in an email or catch them in a text, if they're in the middle of something, again, technology has given us, we can look at it my phone's sitting right here. If it was open, I have it in a phone case, I can't see it. But if your phone's sitting in front of you, face up, what happens when you get a notification? It lights up and you see it. So you're like, oh my gosh, that agent's calling me. I really need to talk to them. Or I really need to call them back. But they're not in the moment able to talk to you or respond to you. And their day happens to them and they don't get back to you because you're not yet a priority. We have to take the focus off of ourselves and put it on them and say they will communicate with us when that time is right.
Perfect. Now, Jerry, did you want to talk for your question? And do you want me to turn on your microphone? Jerry, I'm going to turn on your microphone. You can ask your question that you have for Beverly.
Okay, hi Beverly, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Fantastic, thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask the question. I'm working with United Realty and we are building a team of realtors using the CRM system for AgentLocator. And one of the questions that is, I don't know how to deal with this question right now is, when you're talking to clients, the client will say, you know what, I'm already working with another agent and I'm just looking. So how do I deal with that type of a client?
That's my favorite. So Jerry, tell me, how do you know the agent that you're working with?
How do I know the agent? I'm actually the project manager working with the brokerage.
I'm role playing with you, Jerry. You're supposed to give me a response.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No worries. I caught you off guard.
Okay.
That's really the essence of how I do it. I'm like, oh, that's great. I don't want to step on any toes. How do you know the agent that you're working with?
Right. And they will say, oh, he's my friend, or
Awesome, Jerry. Again, I don't want to step on any toes. I just have a question for you. You know, when you work with friends, sometimes you don't feel that they work as hard as they would if you're paying somebody full price. So again, don't want to step on any toes, and I don't, no disrespect to your friend, but I just want you to be aware that sometimes it could happen that you may be sending them the properties to go see instead of them being proactive for you. So it's planting that seed in their mind of what to look for. I'm not looking for your business. I'm not stepping on any toes, but I just want you to know what to look for. And how much do you value that friendship if something were to happen, if something were to go bad? And I am more than welcome to talk to your friend and see if we could work something out where he could still get paid, where it's not going to jeopardize your friendship. And then that's where we offer referrals. But most people, they don't know the ramifications of going into a business relationship with a friend until it's too late. And we've all been there, right? We've all been there. Of you get to the end and the friendship ends up severing over something small and minuscule because someone's feelings get hurt. So I always like to ask the person, almost in a joking manner, well, Jerry, I just want to ask, how much do you value that friendship if something were to go wrong? I would love to just be a backup. Now, if it's like a mother or a father or a family member, I definitely don't go there. But depends on how far removed a family member is. If it's a friend of a friend or a friend of a family, I always do like to instill in them, I just want to make absolute certain, because I have to sleep at night, I just want to make absolute certain that you are 100% positive that they have your absolute best interest with your investment. Have you talked to them about expectations of what the process looks like? Have they sat down and talked to you about exactly what's needed in today's real estate? Because there's so many dynamics right now that we go over with our buyers, and us meeting our buyers' expectations are so vitally important. Have they sat down and really talked about everything that you're looking for? And most likely they're going to say no. Say, well, I strongly encourage you, just to save you time, and ask them, all right, here's my situation. This is what I'm looking for. Because you don't want to go see like 100 properties. You want to make sure that you're really zeroing in on a couple and make sure they have your best interest, and they're not just looking for a sale. Most people are very receptive to that. And I've had people even respond back with, whenever I say, well, when you're working with a friend, sometimes, I'm not saying that your friend's doing this, but sometimes they just don't work as hard because they know they don't have competition. So usually you end up doing their job for them. And I just want to make sure that you're getting every property that goes on the market, and you're not relying on them to get you the properties, because that's what they're supposed to be doing. And then that's when they start coming clean and say, oh, well, you know what? There was this one property, we missed it because they didn't send it to us and we found it and it was too late. So you're not telling them anything that they probably haven't already realized. It's just getting comfortable going there. And what we have to remember is, if we are that person that's going to just hang up on them and go, oh, okay, well, good luck with that, you've lost them anyway. So I like to play with my conversations, because if you feel that you've lost the deal anyway because they have an agent, you can't say anything wrong to lose the deal because you never had it in the first place. So those are the ones that you get uncomfortable, or you're uncomfortable saying uncomfortable things, but you haven't lost anything. And you just build up that confidence to be able to say things like that to people in a way that's not pushy.
You can tell too when you bounce a question to them about the realtor, like how long have you known your realtor, or how you know your realtor, anything like that. Their response sometimes indicates their honesty.
Yes.
Whether being honest or not, with regard to that. So a lot of people say they have an agent, they are, 6 months out from buying a house. So you know that they're not actively working with an agent at that very moment. It's just somebody that probably they did business with in the past. Not to mention, almost everyone out there knows a handful of agents. So it's really easy to say, I have a realtor.
Right.
Well,
That's a really good feedback, Beverly. I really appreciate that. My another question, I just have a quick question, just as a follow up to the same one, that sometimes we get leads whether it's the mother or the sister looking for the house on behalf,
yep.
of their children or their brothers or sisters. So how do we deal with that, right?
I usually say, well, let me ask you, what can I do for you in the meantime to earn their business?
Right. Okay.
And it's just very direct, right? It's because those are difficult in and of itself as well. And, sometimes I'll just ask for, well, do you mind forwarding my information over? Do you mind giving me their information and I'll contact them? Or is there a time that you all will be together that we can all talk together? Because what we have to show them is value. We have to be a little bit different than a conversation they're going to have with somebody else. So we have to ask them exactly, what's prompting the move? Why are they moving? Let's find the pain, and let's remember what we can always go to so that they know we've remembered the conversation. So, with mom, what's prompting the whoever moving where they're moving? Well, Well, awesome. What can I do for you or even for them to make this process a little bit easier? So you're on here looking, what exactly are you looking for to help them? How can I help you help them? Because that's all they're looking for.
Yeah, that's a very good feedback, because because if you really analyze this, right, I guess it's just basic common sense conversation, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really coming with that inquiring mind, like, I have to know. So if you're going into the conversation of what don't I know? What would help me earn their business? What question could I ask that would reveal something for me to be able to better assist them or better help them? And a lot of times in those situations, if you don't know what to ask, just ask the simple question of, how can I best help you to earn your business? And that's one of those answers that sometimes they'll come back and they'll like, you know what? I don't know. Well, how often would you like communication? How would you like communication? What would be best for you? If you're online looking, how can I make it easier for you? What would you like to stay up to date with? What's the best information I could be giving you while you're in the information gathering stage? What's most helpful for you? Do you have a question about certain numbers on what a mortgage would look like, on what a payment would look like on a certain home? Do you have any tax questions? Find out if they have any other underlying questions that you could maybe connect them with another professional that would be able to get them more information. And then follow up with that. So that's always the go-to line. Well, what can I do for you to earn your business? And people appreciate that because they're like, wow, you want to earn my business? You don't want to just try and sell me something?
Guys, if my car goes out here, it looks like we've got like a massive hailstorm happening right now outside. So if anything drops, that's what happened. Now, does anyone else that's watching here want to participate with Beverly with respect to any of the objections that you're continuously facing that you're just not quite sure how to respond to? You can raise your hand or use a Q&A.
You are fading in and out, Crystal. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Mm-hmm. I'm a little closer. Is that better?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Just get all up in it.
Get all up in there. Does anyone want to? Is anyone brave enough to participate in a role play with Beverly?
No, you're cut out now. I can't hear you at all.
No.
I cannot also
Okay,
hear.
what's going on here? I'm going to change my input output and
Okay.
put my headphones on, and that might.
I can't hear you. Hello?
Yeah, she's trying to get her headphones connected.
Okay, so I think it's maybe it's on her side.
It is, yeah. Love technology. Jerry, did you have any other questions while we have a few minutes here while she's connecting?
Well, I guess the other question, right, is that, the other, I'm trying to deal with my agents, right? They're saying, oh, these leads are no good, right? And I'm
Yeah.
telling them the same thing, right? Well, how many times did you follow up, right?
Yep.
Because it takes time. There is no magic, right?
Correct.
You have to be consistent, and you have to do the task and the work involved, right?
Yes.
And just making 3 or 4 phone calls or 5 calls, then you cannot say, oh, these leads are no good.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a numbers game. It's not that the leads are no good. It's just that the results that your agents are looking for is, I want an appointment today and put somebody in my car today. Right? So when they're not getting those results, they're automatically thinking these leads are no good, where in the retrospect, all of these leads are building the pipeline for a long-term business to be able to have collaboration with these people through time. Because inevitably, it is the middle of June. It feels like New Year's was just a couple of weeks ago. And when we have conversations with people, we tend to forget that this time next year, we're still going to be looking for business. And if we cultivate that lead until this time next year, we're going to have that deal. So it's not, I'm going to go in my website and create business today. It's, I'm going to go in my website and create business for the tomorrows of my business. And it's just a quick switch of that brain of, okay, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to business build, because what you're doing today is where you're going to be in 90 plus days. So if you're not calling your leads today, you're not going to have any business in 90 days. And
But
so,
Beverly, would it be okay if I said something quickly?
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I think what our friend there, I can't remember his name, something that I've noticed that I'd like for you to also comment on is, like, I'm up to like probably 60 or 70 phone calls a day through AgentLocator. And I noticed that a lot of people will originally say no. And then once I say, like, no, I'm not looking to try to get you to move today. I want to know, like, what's the plan for the future? Are you going to move ever? And then all of a sudden they open up and tell me everything.
Yes. Absolutely. They do. And that's where it's asking the right questions. And, what are your future plans? And it's funny. So Tom, if you've been having these conversations, people are like, oh, I'm just looking right now. Well, what are your future plans? Well, I'm not gonna be moving for another 4 months. Well, okay, that's like tomorrow in real estate language, right? It's really amazing how people think I'm 4 months out, but in retrospect, that's really kind of right now. It's okay, well, we need to really get prepared. Because if you're that close, what all has to happen? What ducks have to be in a row to make it happen in 4 months, so it can really happen in 4 months? But yeah, it's asking the right questions. And Jerry, it would be interesting to go back and listen to your agent's conversations on the phone and see how far they're taking the conversation. Because a lot of the leads are like, no, I'm just looking. If they're not digging any further, and I was like, okay, well, give me a call whenever your things change. That's why the leads aren't good. So I would go back and listen to a couple of, like, if they're coming to you and saying that, it's like, well, let's go back and listen to a couple of your phone calls and see how we can improve the conversations. Right.
Okay. That's good to know. I wanted to find out, Beverly, is that, I'm pretty sure you have the statistics. Like if let's say, because we got a database right now from AgentLocator, almost like 200 leads.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, is setting up the expectation with the agents, right? And
Yep.
I've already told them that the conversion should be at least minimum 1 to 2%, right? I said we are not looking for 3% or 4%.
Mm-hmm.
At least 1 to 2% is what we should expect. So my question to you is that, from the agent locator system from, the last 6 months or 1 year, what are your conversions ratios?
And that is a hard question to answer with an absolute number, because when you're incubating leads and you're generating leads, that percentage is going to continue to increase the longer you have leads in the database, because I have leads that are 15 years old, right? So if I'm closing a lead today that was 14 years ago, and I'm closing a lead that just came in last month, how do you even possibly remotely say what your conversion ratios are? Unless you're counting all of your leads. And then when you count all of your leads, are you eliminating the bad phone number, bad emails? Are you eliminating the trash? And that's why I like to go based on conversation. So out of X amount of conversations, you should have X amount of closings. Because if you're having the right conversation, you're nurturing properly, that 1 or 2 out of 100 is going to go to 3 or 4. But when is that 3 or 4 going to happen? Is it going to happen over the course of this 6 months, or the next year, or the next 2 years? And that's why we always have to be consistent with working our database, and can't really afford to take that time off, because that's what changes. It's a snowball effect. I start calling today, those conversion numbers are just going to snowball and increase as long as we're consistently working the system. So those conversion numbers are going to go up the longer you have the system, because you're not only going to be closing the right nows, you're going to be closing the yesterdays.
Right. Okay. All right.
So have them focus on the conversations, because that is where the high is getting them excited about having a really good conversation. Because when you have a conversation with somebody that says, I'm thinking about making a move, my boyfriend and I are thinking about combining homes, but there's a lot of dynamics that have to happen. I have to wait for this to happen. I have to wait for that to happen. It's going to be at least 8 or 9 months, but we really want to make this move happen. Well, if your agent does all the right things, there's no reason why they shouldn't be the agent for them. So get them excited about the conversations, and start tracking the really good conversations that they got all the information from, and start rewarding them on the conversations. And you'll start to see a little bit of a shift of excitement that, oh my God, I just had this conversation, I got this from them. So not only is that going to help excite them, that's going to help them ask better questions if you're going to reward on the conversation and not the conversion.
Oh, that's really good, right? So I guess I've learned something today, that it's the conversation that matters, and also maybe creating some sort of excitement in the conversation.
Yes. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. And that was Tom. Tom, did you want to role play? I love it that you volunteer.
Yeah, of course. I'm not shy.
Well, if you're making that many calls a day, I can agree with that.
That's just my agent locator calls. I'm also doing 450 through Mojo, just like completely cold.
Oh, so you're doing? Are those expired calls you're making too?
Just neighborhoods.
Oh God! Oh, circle prospecting.
Yeah, I get rejected by about 100 people a day.
Awesome. And you're still here to talk about it. You didn't die. And so everybody has this great fear. And I'm like, your life isn't going to change just because you get hung up on and people tell you no, it's okay. The more no's you hear, the closer you are to a yes. And I think, are you still there, Tom? I think your volume cut out. We lost him.
Lost him. Can you guys hear me? My microphone's just.
Yes, you're much
I might
better.
I might have to reset, because reality is yeah, I can hear through my headset, but it won't pick up my microphone. That would require me restarting my computer, and I'm not doing that. So.
No. I can hear you just fine.
Okay, but his office called. That's why. On there. So one really good, and I think you've used this as well, Beverly, open-ended question ask someone is, what needs to happen to make this move possible?
Yes.
That is a loaded, open-ended question that could result in an earful of information more than what you bargained for. So,
Yeah, very true. Very true. Well, and another favorite that I have is if I had a magic wand and everything was perfect, what would a move look like for you? What would you like to see happen? Because all I want to know is what are your dreams and can I fulfill that? Is there any potential of me fulfilling that? Because everybody wants a move to be easy. And a lot of times what happens is people go online with intention of finding their mansion, and then they start seeing the prices and then they're quickly deflated. And a lot of times they're not going to tell you that. If that's what truly happened, if they went online, they're like, oh my God, I think I have a lot of equity and I think I might be able to make a move. And oh my God, prices went up way more than what I expected. And now I'm not going to be able to make a move. People don't like to just be forthcoming with that. So it really does require us to dig, because if they've gone online, they start looking at houses and they've been deflated, they don't want to talk to you because their dream was just killed. They don't have enough money for a down payment. And just talking to you is just going to make it more depressing for them. So we can't take anything personally because we don't know why they're looking or what's happened in their process. But yeah, those are my two favorite questions to try and get some information out of them beyond the I'm just looking. Well, what has to happen? And then you hear, I have to hit the lottery. Okay.
you and me both. You and me both.
Well, then I asked, well, do you play the lottery?
Well, exactly, right? A lot of people say that, but don't actually. Will never win because they never buy a ticket. So.
Yep. Yep. I will never hit the lottery. I can guarantee you that. I will never win big in Vegas either.
I always wait till it's like a massive lot, like 70 million or something like that. And then it's like more money than you actually never need.
Yep.
But I feel like if I'm going to win, go big or go home.
Exactly. I'm feeling the need to talk about some nurture and follow up, because that's been a big question that I've been receiving from some of my clients lately is how do I follow up with them? What do I do to follow up? And what do I say? Because once we have that conversation, it's easy to call people and find out what's going on. But then whenever we park them somewhere, it's like, is it too soon to call them? Should I call them? What do I say when I call them? And that's why it's so good to ask so many questions up front to really get all of the information so that you know exactly how to follow up. So in that first initial conversation, I do like to ask them, how often would you like me to check in? Because then it takes the guesswork out of it and you're attempting to set that expectation. And the mistake that we make is we get attached to an outcome. We think that they should answer the phone whenever we call them. In retrospect, be glad they didn't answer the phone, because it's just a quick check-in for you and you can move on to the next and you have more time in your day, because I hated getting stuck on the phone. It drove me bananas. And if you just do that quick check-in of, hey, I know that you're getting my emails. I know that you're seeing some things. Just let me know if anything changes and you want me to change up anything with what I'm sending you. And it's just that check-in. You're not selling them. You're not trying to tell them to call you back. It's just, hey, I'm just checking in. Just wanted to say, hey. Or even if you know something about a target area that they have their eyes on, hey, I just want to let you know, I just saw a property list in there. I know you're not ready yet, but I just wanted to keep you updated on what's going on with the prices. And if it's somebody depending on community, if you find out what their likes are, what their children like, what they like to do to spend their time with hobbies, if there's an event going on in your community, hey, just want to let you know there's an event going on, da, da, da. If you hadn't heard about it, I just wanted to let you know. So we can utilize a lot of different things for those follow-ups and those check-ins without being salesy, and again, just being top of mind.
Now, would you say, so this is one that I'll encounter, and I'm sure you encounter as well, is somewhat of a fear and kind of following this same sort of theme, is they don't want to feel like they're bothering or smothering somebody, so they give too much space. And then when I advise everyone is, if you give someone too much space, another realtor is just going to swoop in, be more convenient, and steal that opportunity from you.
For sure.
So if a lead, let's say they ask that question, what do you expect from me as to following up with you? And let's say, follow up with me in 3 months. Would you advise to stick to that 3 months, or, cut that in half and do a 1.5 check-in with something that might be similar to what you just indicated, a property that came up in the area that they're looking in, or the community, or an event, or something to do with their situation? Would you advise on that?
Well, again, it's asking them how they would appreciate communication back to them and what their favorite form of communication is. And the reality of, if you leave them too long, exactly to your point, if they're not logging in, they're in someone else's website. I can almost guarantee that. And the only reason that we feel like we're bothering somebody is because we know we're going to make money off of them if they choose us as their realtor. That's the only reason we feel like we're bothering them. So we have to eliminate that piece of, I'm going to be taking money from them, or I'm going to be making money from them. We have to come from a place of, I really care about their future. I really care about the home that they're going to be in. And I don't want them to get caught up with a realtor that doesn't have their best interest. So you're not bothering them if you're not selling them in the nurturing process. If you're just truly checking in and you're just truly being that concierge, hey, just want you to know that I'm here. If you have any questions, if anything's changed, I'm here. I want to be your resource. So you don't want to let them go too long, but if they are engaged, at least they're getting the emails, and it's just that quick text. Hey, just want to check in and say, hey. Anything that you can get in that initial conversation that is going to build that commodity. If you know they love sports and you know that they have a certain team that they like, Google something, find something and go, oh, hey, I just heard the head coach, blah, 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 whatever. I was thinking about you. Those little nuggets go so far. They don't care how great of a realtor you are if you've listened to some of the things that they're saying.
That's where the active listening and non-use of written scripts come into effect. Definitely help.
Yes, exactly.
That's extensive note taking as well. So a lot of you, when we go on training, that's one of the things that we elaborate on is make sure you're writing your notes as if you're leaving them for somebody else. That way, every detail is included. Try to little minute ones, like they have a dog, it's like a little chihuahua, whatever, because you could always reference that in the future, right? So similar to what Beverly just said, it brings that conversation more personal, and they're more likely to engage in such a conversation with you, and they're going to be impressed that you remembered that in the first place.
Yes. Yes. Ask about their kids, ask about where they go to school, ask about the, what sports do they play, what interests do they have, and keep those in the notes. And then whenever you talk to them again, go, oh, hey, how's so-and-so? That goes so much further. And I don't know, it's definitely a step ahead of the competition. And, back to what Jerry and I were talking about in focusing on the conversations, I can almost guarantee you, if you're having a great conversation with them, they probably haven't talked to many other agents, because the other agents aren't as diligent with the amount of phone calls that they're making to get people to answer the phone. So while you have their attention, get as much out of it as what you possibly can. And then
go ahead. I was going to say, Nita is asking about following up on weekends. How do you find that goes? Do you find you have is it recommended? Do you find you have better success, or does it make a difference?
Well, it depends if you want to have a conversation with them. I mean, you have probably a better chance of them picking up the phone on the weekends because they're not at work, but then it can go the other way too. They're with their family and they don't want to answer the phone because they're with their family, right? And that's where I always ask them, when are the best times for me to check in with you to follow up? So once we ask that question, we put that on them, and it takes that thought process out of it for us, because I'm guilty of it as well. You sit down, you're like, oh, I don't want to call them on a Saturday morning at 11 o'clock. They're probably just getting up and getting breakfast. And oh, I definitely don't want to call them on Sunday, because what if they go to church? and we have this conversation in our mind and tell ourselves why not to call them. But if we take that thought out of the process and we're asking them when to follow up, we'll think of some other reason why we shouldn't be calling them.
You can tag those people too, weekend, like a W for weekend.
Yeah.
If you're sitting there on the weekend and you pull up all your leads with the tag weekend, you know those are the ones that you're okay to call on the weekend. If you haven't spoken to them yet, of course.
Yeah, for sure. So make it easy on yourself and just ask them. And if they're like, oh, it doesn't matter, I'm always on my phone or whatever. And then always ask them what their favorite form of communication is.
Mm-hmm.
Because then when they don't respond, you know they've seen it. It just wasn't it wasn't in a good time for them to actually make the response. And don't be attached to the outcome of them responding. If they say that's their favorite form of communication, they saw your text, and I will guarantee you they appreciate it. And just carry on with keeping the communication going without expecting them to respond back to you. Because they'll respect that you didn't take it personally. Because they'll feel bad enough that they didn't respond.
Masha is asking, and this is likely what many, probably all of you have encountered. What if your leads are mostly saying they'll give you a call back?
Yeah.
I'll call you when I'm ready. I'll let you know when I'm ready, or yeah, can I call you later?
Then I like to go real quick because I want to confirm if it's worth me even entertaining that. Well, that's great. You're going to call me back. I doubt that you will, but let me just ask you real quick. Are you planning on making a move? And when would that move be? That's all you need to know. Okay, cool. And then you can put them wherever you need to put them because you know they're not going to call you. And I'll call people, and yeah, you're not going to call me back. You don't even know who I am. And then they start laughing. It's just what they say. It's just like when we walk into a store and go, no, I don't need any help. So yeah, I just like to ask them, especially I'm in a meeting, I can't talk right now. Well, let me just ask you really quick. Are you planning on making a purchase this year or next year? This year. Okay, great. I'll call you back at a better time. Are evenings better? Yes. Okay, boom. I just leave them in my call rotation then. But if they go, oh no, I'm just looking. I'm not moving for 5 years. Okay, boom. I'm going to pull them out and say just looking. But I like to get that last initial question in to find out if you're worth it or not.
And it's something we all do. I'm sure everyone in this list does it when somebody calls or approaches you about, a new printing company, about business cards. Like, hey, can you send me an email with some information? I'll give you a call when I've read it. Or I'll look into it and I'll call you back. The truth is, you probably have no intentions of either or. It's just the quickest way to get them off the phone.
Exactly. And most people don't know how to overcome that objection to keep the conversation going. So like the business card thing, well, do you use business cards? If you were to buy business cards, where would you buy them from? Right? So there's always those couple more questions that you could ask to engage the urgency or the quality of the lead.
Mm-hmm. Sean is asking, similar question for leads that refuse to speak with the agent on the phone, but will only exchange emails. What would you do?
It really all depends on how the email sequencing is going, because there's certain things that are really difficult to discuss via email. I like to return communication with the way they communicate with me, just out of respect. But when the email gets to a point where you almost have to have that conversation, just within that email, just, suggest there's a lot of information that I would like to talk with you about. Would there be a good time for us to set up a time to talk and see where that goes? So it really all depends on how meaty the emails are getting. Because it is, communication in email and in text, it can just be so taken wrong that's not my preferred communication. After a couple of zings, I like to have that phone conversation.
I find it's longer to communicate with someone back and forth through email or at texting them. Often you can spend hours writing an email or not hours, but a good chunk of time depending on the content of that email. And it would have been 3-minute conversation on the phone.
Yeah.
Right? So
And I love Tom's question. Immediately, Tom. I call him right back as soon as that phone hangs up. And, you know, the only reason I say that is I have had people, when I called them right back, that truly got disconnected. It does happen. I mean, technology does fail us. And I have one lady, she hung up on me about 5 times. And finally, whenever I got her, I'm like, don't hang up on me. She started laughing. She goes, I have really bad service. Here's my home phone number. And I got her home phone number, and she answered it whenever I called her back. So we think they hang up on us on purpose, which some do, but some don't. So I call them back immediately, and depending on my mood that day, I'll leave a voicemail and go, hey, I'm sorry I lost you. I'm just checking in. I'll give you this opportunity right now to text me or email me, or I am going to continue to call you. I won't answer my phone. I just want to know, are you planning on making a move? Just call me back. I won't answer the phone. And they never do, but I just leave them in my queue, and I call them. I treat them just like I never even spoke to them. But I do like to call them right back immediately. And I keep calling them. I don't, you can hang up on me 10 times. I mean, there's people that I finally talked to after 8 hangups. And then I get the real story. I'm like, why don't you just tell me that the first time? Why did you waste 23 seconds 8 times in my life? You could have told me that the first time you hung up on me. Come on now. And why do they continue to answer the phone? That's what blows my mind. It's just, it's, you will never figure leads out. And you just have to make it fun.
Tom is saying he usually calls them back. Says that we always disconnected, but if they don't answer, he waits a week before trying them again.
Yep. And depending on where they are in my call cycle, if they're in the first 14 days, I call them every 2 to 3 days. If they're in the I'm active within the last 30 days, it's once a week. And I just change up the time frames that I'm dialing those once a week. So it depends on where they are in my algorithm on how often they're going to get called back from me.
And we've got a few minutes, so does anyone have any more questions or a question that they want answered that wasn't covered here before we go?
Yes, I just wanted to find out, Crystal, is that do we have some sort of a YouTube channel or whatever where these recordings are kept?
Yes, so if you go to our agent locator, let me just pull it up here on YouTube. This is a playlist of the dials. A lot of these there is some full webinars in here. There's also little cut-ups. So we've taken, we sit back, we rewatch the webinar and take out times through the webinar where either there was a call being made, and in hearing that call take place and what is said and how objections were handled, or it's just kind of talking and motivational speaking, with respect to various aspects that we may have had questions, similar to what we did today. So yes, there, I put it in the list, that's the playlist, but if you don't find it, you just go on YouTube and look for Agent Locator, and you'll see the live dials playlist on there.
Beautiful.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Looks like that may be it. I don't have any questions online. I don't have any questions.
I wanted to know, Crystal or Beverly, is there a way that I can email you guys some questions, or this is the only forum?
Certainly.
You can definitely email them over. You can either send to myself if they're directed for Beverly, then I can definitely direct them to Beverly for you, or provider. Are you okay with handing out your email, Beverly?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Do it that way, and then kind of go from there. And then Jerry, your team has had training, correct or no?
They've had some of the training using Agent Locator. We have just started using the system about 2 months ago.
Okay.
So we are in a learning process.
Okay.
Right.
Wonderful. And Jerry, you can go to fixyourcrm.com and you can get a copy of my questions that I ask, my initial questions, to get all the information that your agents can use.
Okay. What is it called again? Fix Your CRM?
Yep, .com.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
I will.
Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Beverly.
Certainly. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
It's a beneficial webinar for those that were on here. A lot of questions and what the issues they're encountering with their leads.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk to you because we have to figure out the next one because it falls on Canada Day. So we won't be able to do it on the 1st of July. So we'll figure out when.
Yeah, just shoot me an email and we'll rearrange it. Not a problem.
Sounds good. Well, thanks everyone. You enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.